Happy New Year. This is what you've been waiting for your whole life. I know that sounds like a sensational claim, especially because I dug this up in my backyard. It's a very, very precious stone. It's ancient. It precedes the first cultures on the planet 10, 15, 20,000 years ago. Well, whatever. That prehistoric shit. Happy New Year. This is the stone. This is the bad boy that I dug up in my backyard. It's was effectively the universe in the form of a stone. I know you're thinking like Marvel, like the, you know, Avengers and shit. It's a little different. So let me review with you what this stone is about, and then I can tell you what I'm doing right now currently with the government, because they actually hired me after I found this stone, the universe stone, as I like to call it, in my backyard. It's actually very pertinent for the new year. It's 3 a.m. January 1st. Not 3 a.m. January 2nd, but 3 a.m. January 1st. So Happy New Year. So what we have here, I'm going to give you a little close-up, is 1, 2, 3, 4 portals. And then the 5th portal at the top. So you have 4. Now this reminds me of the ancient Greek god Janus, the two-faced god. And I was reading on Wikipedia that Janus is actually not the eponymous deity of January, that it's in fact Juno. And they found this fact in ancient Greek almanacs, that it's not in fact Janus, it's Juno. Janus anyways is the two-faced god, the past and the future, which is why we think of Janus right there, the new year, looking at the past and looking at the future. Now, this universe stone is like a four-faced god with a 5th opening up at the top. Now when I found this rock, it was actually very dirty and very muddy. It was under a big stone, a larger stone, and I was digging in the back next to a creek to get some crawdads because I was reminiscing about my childhood and I wanted to find some crawdads in a creek. I also used to fish for catfish. There were these big old catfishes in this creek near where I grew up in Arkansas, and I would catch little brim and then I would cut their heads off with a shovel. And well, the brim would still be, I know that's really gross, the brim would still be connected by a hook, the hook of the fishing pole, the fishing line. And I would throw the head back in and I'd pull back the, I'd pull in a catfish. Catfishes were like this big. Can you see that? And that's the same creek that farther down I would go into and find crawdads, which are basically like little lobsters. And there was a big black water moccasins there too that could have killed me. I think we call them cottonmouths as well. So I was in the back here as an adult trying to find crawdads in a little creek, and I was excavating little rocks inside the creek and trying to smoke them out of their holes, you know what I mean? Smoke the crawdads out of their holes. And then I moved a rock, and boom, this guy. Now let me tell you why this is such a special rock. As I said, there are 4 portals. Now, I'm going to tell you what's associated with each portal. Now, also, I'm really ecstatic about this because I'm the only one who figured out what these 4 portals meant. So, what happened is I found this stone and I went online and I started researching it and everything like that. And apparently, if you research enough, you trip wires on the internet. There's an algorithm in place, and it basically tells the NSA who's looking for what. And based on the features of my Google search, I tripped a wire with the NSA, and they realized that I had this. They didn't know what this was, right? And I don't exactly know how they all figured it out and networked it and me and GPS'd us, so they figured out I was the one with this, etc. I mean, of course, they can get my, what is it called, my internet protocol, IPS, I can't remember, VPN, or whatever. They found out me based on my searches, and I was contacted. But first they had to watch me. They watched me. And I was told later that the kind of decisive moment occurred when I was in traffic and a woman pulled in front of me as we were making a turn. And I had an option on how I was going to deal with this. So we were making a turn and she pulls ahead in traffic and then goes into my lane as we're making a turn. Now that's kind of rude. And what I do is I practice consciousness as a spiritual driver. I'm a spiritual driver. I am constantly practicing mindful driving. So when this bitch cut me off, I was just like, okay, fucking cunt. And then I was like, what do I have to do? Now these are thoughts that I have in my head that I'm very aware of, and because I'm spiritual, I'm like, okay, you know, I try to come to terms with the bad words, bitch and cunt, and I know I'm not supposed to say that. I'm definitely not supposed to think that. I'm supposed to forgive her. And so what I do is I go back into the lane that she had exited or left or merged out of, whatever you want to call it, and I sidle up alongside her as we're driving now. And of course, in her mind, she's like feeling, oh shit, you know, this is road rage. This guy's gonna flip me the fucking bird. And I'm like, no. And I look over there and I go like this. Can you see that? And I smile and I'm like this. And I put my hands back on the steering wheel and I go like that. I wink at her. She's kind of cute. Wink at her. Bitch. And then I keep driving. And I think that was the decisive moment. Because as we all know, there's cameras everywhere. This is the crazy thing, just as a side note. Everybody was like, oh, we want a one world government. We want global socialism. Yeah, we want more government. We want one government. And do you realize that there will be cameras everywhere and that there will be nowhere to hide? Well, I'm particularly sensitive to these things, so I know that there are cameras all over my car. And this is the moment when the NSA realized that I'm a very spiritual person. That I didn't flip her a fucking bird. I didn't bitch her out, right? I sidled up next to her. I sidled. How often do we use that word? I sidled up there. My engine was running, and I was just kind of like on my pony, driving down the road on my pony, and I was like, hey baby, I got you. And I was forgiving. I forgave her. And that's when later that day I got contacted by the NSA about the universe rock that I dug up in the creek when I was looking for crawdaddies. 4 portals. Now it's time, because you have been so patient, it's time for me to tell you about these 4 portals and my job with the government. This portal is the known. Oh, you remember that term, huh? Donald Rumsfeld press conference back in the early 2000s talking about Iraq. The known. This right here is the known unknown. Now I'm going to get these portals mixed up, but it doesn't matter. And this right here is the unknown. And I'm going to flip it around. The 4th portal is the unknown known. Now, the known known is what we know that we know. The known unknown is what we know that we don't know. It's what we know that we don't know, like flight cancellations. We know that that can happen. We just don't know whether it's going to happen to us. Or another one I like is like, we know that there is a moon called Europa that orbits Jupiter. We just don't know whether it's got life under all that ice. That's the known unknown. We know that we don't know. And then the unknown unknown, and let's just say it's this portal right here. The unknown unknown is what we don't even know that we don't know. Right? And I was talking to somebody, he will go undisclosed. I will not mention his name. He told me that he knew everything he needed to know. He's a very religious person. And I said, well, wait a minute. You don't even know what you don't know. It would be like saying that there's something in front of me right here, in front of you, between us, and we don't even know. And we don't even know that we don't know, because we have no sensory apparatus for discerning its presence. That would be the unknown unknown. It's the stuff that we don't even know that we don't know. Now that is so freaking fabulous. I love that. Now, the other one is the unknown known. And, you know, I lost track of which portals are which, so I'm just going to say it's this one. Now, the unknown known is the disavowed beliefs, the suppositions, unknown practices, the stuff that we don't even want to know about that is actually happening, like Abu Ghraib, which was the torture prison in Iraq during the Iraq War, Guantanamo Bay, which is in Cuba, the fact that 6 corporations own 90% of the media in the United States and they're telling everybody else about fake news. These are the things that we know. They're the unknown known. And so it's kind of like they're there. They form the bedrock of our consciousness and our culture, and yet we don't really acknowledge them because it's very painful. Okay? For example, whether 9/11 was really just a controlled demolition and an inside job. That's kind of like an unknown known. It's there. We can't really put our fingers on it, or we don't want to put our fingers on it. I also tend to think that the unknown known has a mystical dimension too. This is a totally different version of the unknown known. Kind of like if you sit in formless awareness for a long time, you don't know anything, but it's total knowing. The unknown known. It's gnosis. In this state, the thinking rational mind dissolves. Empty, pure consciousness. Nothing's known. It's unknown. And yet you know. Back to my universe stone. The NSA, they contact the CIA, and these fuckers show up on my front porch. 3 dudes, sunglasses, suits, black ties. You know the guys. Can you come with me? We've got something to talk about. I go into their car. It's one of these huge SUVs, black tinted windows, black car. There's a nice bar in the back. I get myself a drink. I tried it first, like a cranberry vodka with Stoli vodka. It was okay. I prefer beer. I had a beer. I asked them if there were any nuts. They gave me some nuts. I like to have nuts with my beer because it's salty. I like the texture and I like the beer. The beer wasn't great. It was Stella. I prefer, a little bit more esoteric beers. So we're sitting there talking and they're like, we know what you have. I'm like, oh yeah? What do I have? And they're like, we know what you've got. And I'm like, okay. They're the ones who call it the Universe Stone. I'm not calling it the Universe Stone. I'm like, I dug this fucker up under a rock when I was searching for crawdads. And they're like, we want to work with you on this. Well, I'm like, well, why don't you just take it from me? You've got the monopoly on force. You're the government. You can just take it no matter what. And they're like, yeah, we thought about that. That's what we do. But you found it. And because of the esoteric lore that surrounds the Universe Stone, you're the only one who has access to it. So this is how I got my job with the government and the Universe Stone. I sat in a room at a table with those shitty fluorescent lights overhead. I hate those lights. I told them I didn't like those lights. I told them I wouldn't even work for them if there were those lights up above. But whatever. The lights are still there. And I sit there, and I sat there for like a good fucking year with this thing. And I had my table, I had my chair, and that's it. There's nothing else. And of course, cameras everywhere, and electrodes in my head to monitor brainwaves, etc. And they're just trying to discern my consciousness as I interface with the consciousness of the Universe Stone. And after a year, it becomes apparent that these are 4 portals for the known, the known unknown, the unknown unknown, and I figured out, of course, the unknown known. Okay? That last one always gets me. It's really counterintuitive. But what didn't get me was the top portal. And needless to say, just want you to understand, as a side note, because I'm a little bit of a freak of nature apparently for discovering the Universe Stone, I'm sitting there studying it, and they're learning all about focus and concentration, and I'm this guinea pig doing this test study, and all the information they're discerning from me and collecting and compiling and putting in massive databases, they're publishing in the form of new age bestsellers and business management techniques and their Harvard Business School publications and all that stuff. All these things that you hear about how to be a more effective corporate drone and corporate slave, and how to, be more mindful at work and focus and get better results, and all these strategies of consciousness, they come from me. Right? I'm the dude they're studying. Okay, well, people like me. I'm sure there's lots of these weird, crazy artifacts all over the planet that people are finding, and they're like, whoa, they have unique access to them because they discovered them. And then the government comes and knocks on the door and says, we want you. Whatever. My thing is I'm trying to find out what is the 5th portal. And I'll be straight with you. I'm going to be straight up. I have no idea what's inside this 5th portal or what it opens up to. I just know that when I contemplate the known known, the known unknown, and the unknown unknown, and the unknown known, and I keep all 4 of those perspectives in my mind at once, a light opens up. And I'm dancing inside of that light. And I'm dancing across the entire universe. I move out of the light. And I start to skirt or skate or dance like a ballerina across the entirety of the globe. And I see incommunicable things, ineffable things that are beyond human reason. I tell you that we think of the universe in the form of space and time. We think in terms of forever and infinity. But as I contemplate the 4 portals and the 5th one opens up, there's only one reality that I know exists for sure. The universe is alive.